It was last December that I tried to get in touch with you for this because I wanted you for season 1. And you were saying, I'm doing a little play right now called A Christmas Carol.
That little one.
And he said he was doing Scrooge, and I'm like, well, I've got to Google this. And I go online, and I see this gorgeous photograph of him in this beautiful night robe with his hand on his chest, and no hats.
No hats.
And behind him is this huge, ominous figure, the ghost of the future.
Ghost, yeah.
And I was like, damn, I want to see this. I really want to see this. And when you said last night, I may be done for a while, I was crushed because I wanted to go. So if you ever do it again, I am going again. Tell us about Ebenezer Scrooge, because in many respects, his arc is a similar one to Maybourne in terms of he's a curmudgeon, falls from grace, takes his licks, and then becomes someone else.
Yeah.
Tell us about playing it, because you did him for 3 years over the course of some time, right?
Well, I've done 3 productions of that production at the Belfry Theatre in Victoria.
Okay.
And largely the same cast except for Tiny Tim. He's changed every year.
Right, because he gets older naturally.
The kid the first year was a lovely little kid and a nice little actor. And then last year we had this other great kid who was just a powerhouse. He was a locomotive. You had to slow him down. He was going so fast. But most of the cast has remained the same, the bigger part of the cast. The Cratchit has changed.
Okay.
And 3 very different Cratchits. The first 2 were quite small men. And then last year he was this, well, he was your size.
Okay.
Like he was you're 6'1",
6'3".
6'3".
So he was a more imposing figure than what you normally see depicted.
Yeah, but what was lovely about him is when I would belittle him, you'd see this huge hulk just turn into just a blob. Just all the life would just drain out of him. He was so good.
Wow.
The real transformation.
And it was really funny because one of the other actors had always been a big man, and he was now this little guy. And I once in a while I would confuse the two because he was he was my nephew.
Yeah.
He was the small guy, and then so they had kind of switched. It was really confusing in my brain for the first couple of weeks in rehearsal. But both of them were quite amazing in the different quality they brought to their characters. And within that, you and I talked last night about, I guess the first time I played them, I sort of took it from the novel and what I understood about the novel, and of course the director had input, and he's directed the play many times over many, many years. And it's his adaptation, and he tweaks and tweaks here and tweaks there. And, but he also uses the actor that he has. So together we put together the first guy, and he was just a pretty much straight ahead mean guy to start with. And
Scrooge, not the director.
No, not the director. So we work our way through. Then 2 years ago, I can't remember, we did it differently. We had some other things to consider. And then last year, and I can't remember what they are because it's been replaced now.
Of course, by the new one.
And this one here, he said, he started talking about those wealthy, confident people who look around at the world like basically it's full of just a bunch of jerks, stupid people. That you don't use your energy to put them down. You don't have to. You can just look at them and make them feel like a piece of shit. Just by looking at them or being quizzical about what they've just said to you. That it's the most asinine thing you've ever heard. So I never had to yell. I could do stuff with almost a smirk on my face. And the audience hated me more than they had for the guys who were, it was so different for them because they were assuming that I was just going to do this Scrooge about, Cratchit, get over here.
Yeah.
Where's the car? The yelling and screaming. It was just like, Cratchit, get over here. And it was so ugly.
More sinister.
And you can hear the breath go out of them. It's a beautiful little, about 300 seats.
It used to be a church.
Yeah, and it's it just kind of wraps around a little bit of a stage with a balcony.
So they're with you.
They're you're 25 feet away at the most. And they can see everything in your face, in your eyes. They can hear your breath. You can whisper, and it goes right to the back. And they just detested me. You could hear the breath come out of them like, oh.
Almost like in a hiss.
Yeah.
And then
I'm liking him less and less now.
Yeah.
No.
the first time he leaves and off he goes out with the Ghost of Christmas Past.
Oh.
And to travel, we traveled on a ladder. So when we left the apartment, we stepped on a ladder and we went.
Okay.
And then we came around and we were back at the old school. And it was, the first time I did it, I was so amazed, and I never really got there, that the moment that he realizes, that he's back at the school, and he remembers what it was like, and all of a sudden he's just in pieces. Yeah. And I didn't quite understand that, but over the years and over doing it, there's a question that the ghost asks him, what's the matter? And he goes, nothing. Well, what's that in your eye? Nothing. You know,
yeah.
But you could actually get there, and right away he starts to change. And he fights trying to change. He doesn't keep fighting to say that didn't happen, but he feels himself changing. And it's just a beautiful journey. No, I never felt that way with Maybourne. It was
transformative, but maybe less powerful.
It was much more fun with Maybourne.
Yeah.
He never had to visit his past to do the change.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a story that's still being retold to this day for a reason, right?
Yeah.
It's still relevant.
And just the way the director, the writer, the way the director had crafted his version of the play, a lot of stuff is left out, but it is a real journey for him, and he keeps that journey focused really, really well in the production. And the costumes are fantastic. The hat thing, he just said, there's no way I'm going to have an actor walking around with a hat on, with that
tassel
thing. And he's going to be in a house coat. He's going to have his regular clothes on. He's just got home from work and he gets his house coat and he gets his slippers on.
This coat is gorgeous. I mean, it says this guy has stature and money.
It's a beautiful, just beautiful. And you could, this costume that they made for me, like you could walk when you turned, it just flowed, and it had nice big cuffs on it. And, it was just a great costume.
Does that help with your performance? Does it help to kind of transport
I
you
suppose
into...
it does, but it's you think about it for a while, and then somewhere it goes into your brain, I guess, but it's not conscious at all.
Has Scrooge influenced Tom McBeath at all? Have you taken any lessons from Scrooge and go, you know, that's reasonable. I'll apply that.
I try not to yell as much.
That's yeah, that's good.
Well, you learn stuff from just about everything you do, especially in the theater. There's I have one coming up that I think is, well, the last two that I've done, not the last two, but in the last couple of years I've worked with a native theater company. I've been the white guy and the rest of the native actors, and both of those have been, the first one especially was, and we toured it across the country. The play won the Governor General's Award. It was called Where the Blood Mixes. It's where the Thompson River meets the Fraser. So you got this clear ice blue water coming in with the muddy Fraser, and they go down the river, and it takes a long time for them to mix. And the Lillooet's right there. And it's native, all native land and stuff, and where the blood mixes, that's how they talk about the river. And the young fellow that wrote it, just a poet. It was a beautiful play to read because it talks about a scene taking place at the bottom of the Fraser River, under the water, down below, and there's a little, the character talks, he tells the story about being down there under the water.
Oh, he lives down there.
And the one guy, he's down there, and there's a house, and there's smoke coming out of the chimney, and then a sturgeon goes by, and he talks about the sturgeon eating stuff off the bottom of the ocean, and then the people that jump off the train bridge go down, and they drown, and then when the sturgeon comes and eats those, and then when you catch the sturgeon and eat the sturgeon, does that mean you're still connecting with your relative that jumped off the bridge? Stuff like that, like these beautiful poetic things. And, and then we toured it across the country to, well, Winnipeg was really fantastic. The associate premier there was a native guy. He was like 6'5". And he didn't want to come to the show because he'd lived in one of the residential schools, and he thought it would
hit him.
No, he thought it would be too painful.
Oh my!
But the Winnipeg's a city that has that's really dealing with, especially the younger people that come into Winnipeg from the north, and they so many of them quickly get into drugs and just trying to survive and being down in the big city to celebrate being down there, and they get off on the wrong foot. And there are so many natives that work in that city to try and help that situation. And that was a real education from dentists and doctors and educators and politicians, all native people, working their asses off to try and help, especially the younger people when they come. And you know, I'm not unread. You know, I am aware that there's a lot of work being done, but it was an eye opener for me. You know, I hear people talk about, you know, why can't they do something? Why don't they do something? Why do they have to? And they're really working to help their people. It was just an education for me, a much broader education. And Winnipeg is kind of the center of it. When you get into Toronto, it's much more spread out. The native population spread out more. And Ottawa was great too, because there was a lot of Ottawa native artists that were really interested in the piece too.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
So you learn stuff without. Well, you just learn stuff when you get involved. And I was lucky enough to get into the second one with them, and this spring I'm going to be doing a play called The Orchard, based on Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard. But it's an East Indian family and based on a true story from the Okanagan, who had an orchard in the late 70s, and how they were trying to survive. And I'm the white guy, and there's one native person, and there's one Japanese person, and the rest are, the other 12 people are all South Asians. So it'll be really cool.
What a chance to learn about other cultures and go, what are you doing that for? Well, I do this because this is that, and all little kinds of quirks. Even sitting with this guy, I'm like, you said, oh, okay. It's very educational.
Britishisms.
The Britishisms, exactly. So.
And it's a way to learn that's probably more enlightening. You probably pick these things up when you're learning through a story as well.
It's amazing. Well, it's amazing the difference between doing the theater and doing the film and TV. You know, you can get into. You know, I've worked on a couple of features way back. Nothing profound, but you sort of get to know people, but you don't grow in any great way. I mean, you might learn more about how to work with camera and other people's ideas of how to shoot a scene, or understanding their vision for stuff. But as a person, the theater, you can actually grow in and improve yourself. Well, improve or screw yourself up. I'm not sure, because some people do. But for me, it's been I've never regretted a day in my life leaving a well-paying job for Air Canada to become an actor. And,
we're certainly thankful.
No, we are indeed.